Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Cherry Pickers Podcast, a podcast where we talk all things hockey. My name is Zoo, aka Zach. I am joined here by my co-host, Brody.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Excited to be back and ready to go for episode 2.
Man, episode 1, ton of fun. Got a lot of good feedback. We had a blast recording, and we're looking to keep that same energy and keep that same excitement throughout episode number 2. I'm happy to be back, Brody. How about you?
I'm stoked. It was definitely fun to do episode 1 and ready to talk about some more exciting news in the hockey world.
Exactly. So we are just approaching All-Star break. Today is Thursday, February 3rd. We got a little bit of time to squeeze some stuff in before the All-Star game actually happens. But let's kick it off first things first here, Brody. Let's talk about a certain signing in the NHL. Controversial or not, Evander Kane signing with the Edmonton Oilers. Brody, give me your thoughts on this signing.
Oh, well, first of all, from a hockey standpoint, I definitely understand the signing for the Oilers. They have been struggling a lot as of late. Not a lot of depth scoring outside of McDavid and Draisaitl. Evander Kane is a proven 20-goal scorer consistently in the NHL. He's going to provide some depth for the Oilers, give them the option to play RNH at number 3C if needed, which, in my opinion, that's great for the Oilers to give them depth because, like I said, they've had a big issue with depth scoring in the past.
Yeah, depth scoring has definitely been something that the Oilers have struggled with for really years now, especially after, the last few years of having Connor McDavid on their team. I'm a little on the fence about this one, Brody. I'm going to be honest with you. For the Oilers, as long as, he isn't a cancer in the locker room, I could see, the positives bringing him in. Like you said, he is a proven 20-goal scorer. He's had 4 seasons where he's had 25 or more goals. So he's definitely a gifted forward that can put the puck in the back of the net for you. But like I said, he's got to prove to not be a locker room cancer. He's had so many allegations, whether it be, the domestic violence, the gambling on the games, the fake COVID passport, all that stuff. It's, I don't know. He's a very interesting character, but if he gels well with the Oilers and the Oilers, get some production out of him, that's a very cheap contract to get some depth scoring on their team, which, like you said, is definitely something they've been lacking for a few years. So, Evander Kane with the Edmonton Oilers, didn't he sign something like league minimum, but he got some signing bonuses on top of that? I can't quite remember. Do you remember what his contract was, Brody?
I believe it's with all the bonuses he gets, he has a cap hit of 2.1 mil.
Yeah, I mean, that's realistically, if you're looking at a 20-goal score, 2.1 million is pretty reasonable for that. So, like I said, you gotta hope that, he doesn't ruin any chemistry that the team has already. So, that's something to look out for. I know his first game, he had a goal. He actually had the first goal of the game, which is, picture perfect moment. But +2, 3 shots. He had 4 hits, had about 18 minutes time on ice. So, he's getting some ice time. He's playing with those, talented centers on the Oilers there. So, should be something interesting to watch as the season unfolds, see how the Oilers continue to do. They've been pretty good lately. They've won 5 of their last 6 or something like that?
They've got 5 out of a possible 6 points on their recent road trip, so they've been turning it around and getting on the right track, and they're not too far out of the playoff race now.
Yeah, they've turned it around definitely after that that whole Draisaitl and Matheson interview. Things have definitely turned around after that win against the Flames as well. South of the border, Brody, I'd like to talk about the Flames just a little bit. The Flames have been red hot again. After coming back, their team, missed a bunch of games due to COVID protocol and stuff like that. When the Flames came back and fully recovered, they struggled. They lost they only won maybe 2 of their last 7 games, and they were not looking too pretty, but they had a really good game against Florida at home in the Saddle Dome. And ever since then, the Flames have won, 5 of their last 6. They've won 6 of their last 8, and they're only looking at, I think, something like 5 points behind. I think it's either LA. I think it's LA that they're 5 points behind, and they've got something like 4 or 5 games at hand on them. So the Flames have put themselves in a really nice position as well coming into this All-Star break, on a very good winning streak, and they've been looking good. So now going into this All-Star game, I have a question completely off topic for you, Brody. What's your favorite event from the All-Star games?
Personally for me, I like seeing the fastest skater. That's always a good event. I've always liked the I think it's an event where they had to raise the puck and go through targets, and they've done
Yeah,
the skills
the
competition
skills,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah, that's always a fun one to watch.
Yeah, the skills one's cool too. I was always fascinated as a kid watching the hardest shot competition. I think that one was always my favorite one as a kid. Just seeing, players like Chara and Weber and, Al McInnes and stuff like that, how hard of a shot they can actually hit, it's crazy to see. So, the All-Star game coming up, looking forward to it. Any players there, you thought should have been in the All-Star game that weren't?
Yeah, there's definitely one for sure. Um, I feel like I feel like Lucas Raymond should have got the nod to go in. I mean, he's had an incredible season. But again, for the NHL All-Star competition, they like to bring in a player from every team, but definitely some players that should have gone that didn't.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this All-Star format either. I think I know it wasn't great for the league when they did the fan vote and they brought John Scott in and all that controversy, but I do believe, the fan vote definitely should factor in. It's the All-Star game, the fans are wanting to see the players that the fans want, So I think, they should go back to maybe a voting format kind of thing. Maybe if they set some, ground rules for it so we can't get players like John Scott coming back, but yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about players that should have made the All-Star game that didn't. I think personally, I think Sidney Crosby should have made it. Honestly, ever since Crosby's come back from his injury, he's been pretty much about point per game player, and Crosby's been lights out. With the Pittsburgh Penguins this year too, they've been definitely achieving goals that they shouldn't necessarily have been achieving. So I think Crosby's definitely one of those players that should have made the All-Star game. And speaking of players that should have made the All-Star game, Drake Batherson. That is a very, very unfortunate situation there in Ottawa for Drake Batherson, having an absolute career year. Unfortunately, was taken out with an injury by Buffalo Sabres goalie Aaron Dell. Aaron Dell received a 3-game suspension. He basically left his crease. Hit Drake Batherson in a vulnerable position. Yeah, very unfortunate situation there. Brody, what do you think? Do you think 3 games was worth it for Aaron Dell or what?
Absolutely, I think it's fair. I mean, first and foremost, Drake Batherson is 100% entitled to that ice. He's chasing the puck carrier. And Aaron Dell does have a history with getting involved in situations like that. He got involved with Vegas Golden Knights forward Mark Stone, and at the time when he was with San Jose, he did get involved with Calgary Flames forward Sam Bennett. So he definitely does have a history there, and in my opinion, I think it's absolutely fair to have a 3-game suspension.
Do you think it's worth more than 3 games?
I actually do, just because he was injured on the play. If he wasn't injured, maybe the suspension wouldn't be as bad. But yeah, I definitely think he could have got 5 or 6 just because Drake Batherson did get injured on the play and did kind of blindside him with the hit. I mean, like I said before, Drake Batherson is entitled to that ice and he has full right to go in and chase the puck carrier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fans of the sport are blowing it a little out of proportion. Yes, it is very, upsetting that Drake Batherson doesn't get to appear in his first All-Star game. He's had an absolute career year this year. He's had 34 points in 31 games, on a very, subpar Ottawa Senators team. Being above point per game is absolutely crazy. I do think the 3 games was definitely reasonable with, his past history, like you were explaining earlier, Brody. But, yeah, I think right around the 3, I would have said 3 to 5 anywhere and around there. It's, yeah, once again, a very unfortunate situation. We wish all the best for Drake Batherson and his road to recovery. And, yeah, it's a very, very tough situation. It's kind of sad. You hate to see it, especially from a goalie that, doesn't really get playing time and has a history of, being a little reckless. But these things happen. It is the sport. After all, the sport is very, it never goes by the book. And that's what we love about hockey, Brody. It never goes by the book. You never know what you're going to get. So speaking of which, when it comes to Never by the Book, we have a very, very interesting conversation halfway through this season. I know we forgot to add it in first episode in our awards prediction, but we're adding it now because I think this deserves a little more conversation. The Calder Memorial Trophy. The Calder has been a, very, very straightforward award in past few years. You know, you have your best rookie of the year, straight up. But, you know, there's been some rules, especially when, you know, Artemi Panarin won it over McDavid, right? That Panarin won it?
Yeah, Panarin won it over
Yeah.
McDavid and Shane Gostisbehere.
And Gostisbehere, yes, exactly. So it was definitely controversial, seeming that, you know, Panarin's played a lot of pro hockey over in the KHL, and he's definitely a lot older than, you know, McDavid and stuff like that. So it's been a award that's been filled with controversy, but this year it has a lot of potential. There's a lot of rookies out there that are making a name for themselves early in their career. Brody, who do you got taking the Calder this year?
I've got Trevor Zegras of the Anaheim Ducks. He's got 12 goals, 20 assists, 32 points, and he scored a Michigan goal against the Montreal Canadiens. Like, this kid is just dynamic. He plays with a lot of swagger, and for me, it's got to be Trevor Zegras.
So that's where I find it interesting, because you look at Brody's opinion. On one side, you got Trevor Zegras. You know, there's a lot of players that love or hate Trevor Zegras. He is doing some crazy things for the game, pulling off these crazy things like the Michigan, or the what I like to call the Dishigan, the pass to Sonny Milano where he flipped it over the net. Crazy things like that. He has been playing very good, especially on that poor Anaheim Ducks team. Then you have the other side, and in my opinion, I truly think the Calder is going to go to Moritz Seider. Moritz Seider, you know, he's a very, very good defenseman so far early in his career. Big 6'4" defenseman from Germany. In 46 games played this year, he's actually fourth on the Red Wings in points as a defenseman with 29. He's only a -2 this year. It's crazy to think he's only a -2 when Detroit's goal differential this year is -30. That's just blows my mind. Like, you look, he plays on a D pair with Danny DeKeyser. Danny DeKeyser's a -10 right now, which says something right there. It's like there's an 8 ± differential between the two defense partners, but you know, he hits people. He averages 2 block shots a game. He plays 22.5 minutes a night as a rookie. Yeah, I definitely think Moritz Seider could steal it from Zegras. I think those two are very, very skilled hockey players. They have so much potential left in them. I do have a sleeper pick, Brody. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
My sleeper pick for the Calder this year, from the Florida Panthers center Anton Lundell. So, Lundell this year, we all know Florida is a fantastic team, an offensive machine this year. Lundell has 32 points, in 43 games with the Panthers. He's a +25. That's crazy. A rookie being a +25. Like, that's insane. The thing about it is, you know, he is playing on a good Panthers team, but his defensive aspect of the game really isn't being talked out about enough, really. Like, he's been playing on first unit penalty kills. He's a super good 200-foot player. I truly think in the future he will be nominated for a Selke at least once in his career. But yeah, his big frame, he's able to reach and get the pucks in the corners and stuff like that. And he's a very defensive-minded but producing forward for that Panthers team that is looking so good. So I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if Anton Lundell could sneak in there and steal a few votes from the two boys we thought were going to win it this year. So what do you think of that, Brody? Anton Lundell?
I think that's a very solid pick. He's got a great ±, and like you said, he's producing offensively, and yeah, I think that's a great pick, and he could absolutely be a sleeper pick.
Now, that might be a little biased for me just because I am a Panthers fan as well. So, I don't know. Anton Lundell, he's definitely been shattering expectations in his rookie year, but so has Moritz Seider and Trevor Zegras as well. So, who's one player, Brody? I think I already know your answer for this, but who's one player going into this season that should have been in talks for the Calder but isn't?
For me, one player that I think should at least get some recognition that honestly nobody's even talked about is defenseman Evan Bouchard from the Edmonton Oilers. And let me explain why. So he's playing top pair minutes, and with Darnell Nurse, he's playing to 23 minutes a night. And this guy last year wasn't even a full-time player. He literally played like 10 games all year last year. He's playing the first power play unit. He's a very calm presence out there for the Oilers. He's got 24 points in 41 games. He's +5. 2 power play goals, and another stat that surprised me. He's got 100 shots this year as a defenseman,
Wow.
and he's got a 9% shooting percentage as a defenseman. Like, this guy's been very solid for the Oilers. Great defenseman this year, and in my opinion, he hasn't been talked about enough, and he should get some more recognition.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. Evan Bouchard has been an absolute rock on that blue line for the Oilers defense this year. Yeah, I remember watching that recent Battle of Alberta game where he scored 2 goals, and wow, what a shot Evan Bouchard has. That man, he deserves to go to the All-Star game, go in that hardest shot competition, because wow, he can put some power on it. But I do agree with you there, Brody. I do believe that Evan Bouchard should be talked about. He's definitely been a solid player that really no one in the league, let alone the Oilers, were expecting to be as solid as he is this year. So yeah, Evan Bouchard, that would be a good pick as well. Another guy I want to talk about that should be in the talks, but what happened? Cole Caufield. Where did he go? Cole Caufield has been silent this year. And yes, I know he plays on Montreal. Montreal, worst team in the league this year. minus 70 goal differential. But what's going on with Caufield here? He's got 8 points in 29 games this season. Remember, he did get sent down to the AHL for, a conditioning stint, try and get his confidence back up. But you want to know what his shooting percentage is, Brody?
Yeah, what is it?
It's 1.4%.
Yikes.
That is, yeah. That's rough. When you got a prospect that is, smaller than average, known for his shot, known for his offensive creativity, and he's providing you 8 points in 30 games and shooting 1.5%. It's a little rough. It's a little rough for Montreal. It's a little rough for Cole Caufield. So that's one surprise. I know going into the season, I definitely had locks on Cole Caufield being, if not one, number 2 in that Calder voting. But yeah, that's been, hopefully he could bounce back, find that confidence, and hopefully Montreal can start scoring again. So let's move on to more international hockey, Brody. The Olympics started already. Woohoo. Go Canada. Team Canada's men's hockey team just announced their captains and alternates for this year. Would you like to announce them, Brody?
I would, yeah. So, captain of Team Canada for the Olympics will be Eric Stahl. The assistants are going to be David Desharnais and Maxime Noro, who, I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about, but...
I don't either, honestly. I'm just going to look him up now. I've never really heard about Maxime Noro. So, Eric Stahl, going in, kind of the obvious pick for captaincy. But what about David Desharnais? I know you have a lot of good feelings about David Desharnais. What do you think about that one?
I think it's a good pick for an alternate captain. I mean, with Montreal, he's had several 20-goal seasons, and he was with the Oilers during their 2017 playoff run. He's got a lot of NHL experience, veteran player. I think he'll be a good leader on that team.
I agree as well. And Eric Stahl surprisingly never got a contract this year to an NHL team. He's still a very good centerman, very good two-way player at his age. But I'm sure he'll be a great leader and a great captain for Team Canada. So I did a little research. Maxime Noro, he's 34 years old. He's from Montreal. He's played 6 games in the NHL, Brody. 6 games, 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, 0 penalty minutes. Sounds like a little bit of cardio out there, but yeah, he's played a lot in the Swiss A-League. He's actually been a decent producer in the Swiss A-League. This year has 31 points in 39 games on Zurich. Yeah, he looks to be pretty close to point per game over there in the Swiss League. So it's good for Canada to get some of those players that are familiar with the European size ice and get them out there playing in the Olympics on Team Canada, being comfortable with that ice size. So yeah, looking forward to it. Definitely going to be watching those games. How about the women's Canadian team? Did you see the score of the game last night, Brody?
I did not, actually.
So they played Switzerland in their first game. I think it's just I think it's round robin, or I don't know if it's pre-tournament or what it is, but they beat Switzerland 11-0 last night.
Quite the dominating performance.
So that was, yeah, quite a performance for Team Canada. So I know Canada's women's team has definitely been top 3 around the world in past years. So it'll be interesting to keep tabs on them as well. Let's move back to the NHL now. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Flyers again. The Philly Flyers have they won a game, which is huge. They actually won a game. They beat the Winnipeg Jets, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they beat the Winnipeg Jets 3-1 on February 1st. So that's good to see. They broke their big game losing streak. But yeah, so their GM has basically said that they're selling house. If they get the right offer, they're going to move. So who are some of these players you think are going to be on the move in Philly, Brody?
Well, for starters, I've looked at their team. They've got a few bad contracts, one of them being JVR. He currently has a $7 million cap hit. He's an older player. He's in his 30s. Maybe somebody they'd be looking to move. As well as Rasmus Ristolina, and he really hasn't had a great showing there. And he's got a $5.4 million cap hit. If you're looking to clear money, those are probably guys you're going to want to look at to trade for potential picks and prospects. So something that the Flyers might look into.
Yeah, the thing about Rasmus Ristolainen is the Flyers paid a lot for him in the offseason. Like, they gave a lot, like Robert Hagg, a first, a second. I think there might have been another piece in that trade as well. But yeah, they paid a lot to get Ristolainen, and Ristolainen definitely has not been performing this year for the Flyers. Well, really, realistically, no one's been performing on that Flyers team, so that's tough to see. I mean, realistically, looking at it, like, I definitely see Claude Giroux going for sure. You know, he's on that expiring deal this year. He'd be a great asset for any team competing for the cup. But they do have a lot of younger players that I know they'd like to, you know, stick around with. Obviously, with Carter Hart, I don't see Carter Hart going anywhere. Players like, you know, Travis Konechny, Joel Farabee, Ivan Provorov, you know, some players like that. Like, if I was Philly, there better be some pretty good offers to get some young players like that. But we go back to the idea of Philly really, like, they realistically have a good roster. Like, I don't see why they're not performing necessarily. Like, they have a good team. They got a decent backup in Martin Jones. You know, he has a 900 this year in 17 games that he's played. They got Cam Atkinson on that team. He's got 17 goals in 45 games. He's got 36 points. Like, he's looked solid as well. But yeah, definitely, JVR is definitely one of those that I could see on the move. JVR with that $7 million cap hit. He's only got 18 points in 45 games, and he's a minus 21 this year. So that's a little rough. Another one that's surprising for me, Brody, is Keith Yandle. We talked about last episode, Keith Yandle breaking that Iron Man streak, which is very impressive, but seems like his defensive side of the game has gone down a little bit, or at least, you know, with Philadelphia. He's a minus 24 through 45 games this year. Only 13 points, which is not bad as a defenseman, but that minus 24 definitely does not look good. And as for Rasmus Ristolainen, remember the Flyers traded a first, a second, and Robert Hagg for 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points, 41 games, minus 10. So you tell me if that's worth a first and a second and a player or not. So, yeah, interesting times for Philly. Anything you'd like to add to that, Brody?
I mean, Philly's had tough luck in recent drafts too. I mean, there was a lot of talent in that 2017 draft, and unfortunately a player didn't pan out for them in Nolan Patrick, and in my opinion that's another thing that's contributed to the lack of success in Philly over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you would think only we could tell in a different universe, but I think that Philly team would look a lot better if they had a guy like Cale Makar on the blue line for him. So yeah, Philly's their drafting hasn't been too outstanding lately. They've kind of been just that middle of the pack team. They really haven't had any success in the playoffs since they went to the Stanley Cup Finals against Chicago. So Philly definitely is in one of those situations where they need to start winning now with that core they have, or they need a whole shakeup, because it doesn't seem like anything's clicking. They're already on their second coach of the season, and things aren't looking too pretty in Philly over there. So we'll have to keep tabs on that as the season goes through and as we get closer to the trade deadline. Speaking of the trade deadline, Brody, Ben Sharat. Sounds like talks have been heating up a little bit with Ben Sharat. We've had a few teams being on the potential destination for him. What do you think? Where do you think he's going to go?
I do know that Edmonton had a lot of interest in Ben Sharat. I mean, he's going to want to go to a team that's in contention for the playoffs, obviously, and looking at depth. Colorado potentially, who's looking for another left shot defenseman who can play a good, solid defensive game. So it's tough to say. A lot of teams that would definitely be interested in adding Ben Sharat. I don't know what the price would be, but going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, Ben Sharat's definitely a very good shutdown defenseman. Not a huge offensive cannon that some teams need on that blue line. Last year, the year they went to the Cup Finals, Ben Sharat only had 7 points in 41 games. But he's been one of those guys that have been talked about that are definitely on the move in Montreal, especially with their new GM. I wouldn't be surprised if he made a splash like that. He only has a $3.5 million cap hit, which really isn't that bad. Did you know he was drafted in 2009, Brody?
Really? 2009? Wow.
2009, yeah. He's definitely got some age on him. I didn't know he was that old. He's 30 years old already. But he was a 4th round pick by the Atlanta Thrashers in 2009. So that's kind of cool to see. But this year, yeah, it's been a struggle for Montreal. So not sure if, his play is to show for actual skill level or if it's just how bad Montreal's been. But this year, 9 points in 41 games, and he's minus 25. So it's interesting to see. I agree with you. Edmonton has definitely been in talks. I know Colorado has. Florida definitely has as well. Even I've heard some things over in Calgary's end, but that could just be, rumors as well. Yeah, I heard that the asking price for Ben Sharat is at least a 1st round pick, which is very interesting because 1st round pick that's quite a bit of value. And if you're Montreal and you're sitting there with a defenseman that doesn't have that much caliber, but teams are willing to give a 1st round pick for, I would take that in a heartbeat because Ben Sharat's been not bad in his career. He really hasn't been too bad, but if he's worth a 1st round pick right now, I would take it. Like I wouldn't sit around and wait for a better offer, So we'll have to keep tabs on that as we get closer to trade deadline as well. See where Ben Sharat ends up going. Let's talk about another award here real quick. I was thinking about it, and the Vezina. We were both in agreement last episode that Igor Shesterkin's going to win that Vezina trophy, but I wanted to acknowledge another goalie in the league that has been absolutely outstanding this season. UC Saros of the Nashville Predators. So UC Saros has the most shots against in the league. He's top 10 in save percentage and goals against. He has a .927 and a .236. His record right now is 23-11-3. Now keep in mind, Nashville is 8th in the league and they're 2nd in the Western Conference. What do you think of UC Saros' play? Do you think his numbers are up there because of how his play has been, or do you think it's just because of how good Nashville's been this year?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. I think UC Saros has been fantastic, and he's been playing well on his own right, but I also think that team in front of him has took another leap this year and has played a lot better and is showing what they're capable of doing. So, in my opinion, I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I agree. Nashville definitely has been, exceeding expectations this year. We all thought the Nashville Predators were going to be, a fringe playoff team, if not even make the playoffs, but yeah, their power play has been pretty good this year, 25.2%, so they're 7th in the league on power play. Their penalty kill also has been really good. They're 11th in the league with an 82.2%. Another big factor that I never really noticed until now, Nashville is last in the league in penalty minutes. Like they don't take penalties. Like they're a very, very disciplined team. So that's definitely another interesting stat to acknowledge as well with Nashville's play. But yeah, UC Saros got another win, so he's up to 24-11-3. His numbers have been good, and kind of has to be, Nashville isn't very deep of a team per se. They have some decent players on that team, but a lot of their depth kind of falls off after their top 6 and top 2 pair defense. So UC Saros has definitely been standing on his head, especially when you have the mentorship of a goalie like Pekka Rinne and stuff like that. It's, you're going to be putting yourself in a good situation. So I definitely agree with you there. I do think it is a bit of both, but I think UC Saros definitely deserves some votes in that Vezina trophy as well. So that's something that I picked up on earlier this week and wanted to talk about as well. Let's talk about another good team, Brody. Another good team in that Central Division, Colorado Avalanche. We talked about last episode how good of a team Colorado is. We both have them picked for the Cup and the President's Trophy. I didn't know they were playing this good, but Colorado finished the month of January with a 15-0-1 record. That ties the record for most wins and points in a single month since Boston in 2014. What do you think is the key contributor of Colorado's success lately, Brody?
Their whole team is just disgusting, to be honest with you. I mean, when you have that good of depth up front and solid defense and goaltending, I mean, the sky's the limit for this team. They're just very talented, and it's clearly showing with how good they're playing.
Yeah, they're plus 54 goal differential. They have the highest winning or points percentage in the league this year. Yeah, it's no surprise when every single aspect of your game is on point. You're going to be a good team. They're first in the league for goals. They're fourth in the league for shots on goal. They're top 10 in power play. They're first in shooting percentage. Their defense game is still good too. They're 13th for shots on goal allowed, 17th for goals allowed. So they're just all around, offensive and defensive, a very good team. And it's really no surprise that they're, on this tear that they have been. And we can only assume that they'll be playing better once McKinnon comes back from his injury. So it's a, very good team. And they've been clicking. Although they did lose to Arizona last game. So I found that pretty funny. I think that was, Arizona's own kind of Stanley Cup Finals feeling right there, beating the best team in the league in a shootout. Very good game. But yeah, Colorado has been on a whole nother level this year, and it's exciting to watch them play every single night. So now, speaking of very good teams in that Central Division this year, Brody, let's talk about the Minnesota Wild for a bit here. The Minnesota Wild are third in the Central right now with a record of 28-10-3. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10 games. It's currently on a 6-game win streak. The Minnesota Wild are a team not a force to be reckoned with right now. They're third in the league, goals for. They're second in shooting percentage. Their all-around game has been very good this year. And there's some players on that team that have been very surprising. We look at a guy like Ryan Hartman, plus 32. He leads the league in plus minus. Defenseman Alex Goligoski, plus 26. Marcus Foligno, plus 21. Zuccarello, plus 21. Kaprizov, plus 19. And you got, you're getting your goals scored too on that team as well. You got Kaprizov, 53 points in 40 games. You got Zuccarello, 42 points in 35 games. You got 5 players there that are above 30 points already this season. What do you think is the key to their success over there in Minnesota, Brody?
I just think they're very well coached. I mean, Dean Evison has done a fantastic job with them, and they've got a lot of good depth scoring and good structure there. So I think Dean Evison should get some nominations for the Jack Adams.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one too. Another standout player on that team, backup goalie Kaapo Kähkönen. He has been fantastic for Minnesota. He has a record of 10-2-2 right now, a .922 save percentage and a .253. He's been a very, very strong backup goalie for Cam Talbot, who really has been playing exceptional as well. He's been very good for multiple years and kind of been a very underrated goalie. So Minnesota as well, that Central Division, when you got teams like Colorado, Minnesota, Nashville, they're all playing, to their potential or more. That makes for a very scary division, especially when you got also the St. Louis Blues in there as well. It's just it's a tough division, but yeah, some of those teams like Minnesota and Nashville playing definitely above what everyone thought they were going to be playing this year, and it's going to be an exciting close to the end of the season. We'll see where teams end up and see who's playing who in the first round of the playoffs. So looking forward to that. Speaking of goalies, let's talk about the Washington Capitals. You wanna cue the listeners in on what you've been hearing about Washington there, Brody?
Yeah, so the Washington Capitals are after a goalie, and Penguins fans, you're not going to like this, but they're looking to acquire Marc-Andre Fleury of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, that would be something else if Fleury were to come back over to the Eastern Conference, play for the Penguins rivals. Chicago definitely has not been living up to expectations as well this year. They've been struggling. They're below 500 this year. Marc-Andre Fleury, he's still got some years left in him. We all know he's a very good playoff performer. And with that Washington team as well, they've been solid. They're, top 10 in the league. They're definitely going to be making the playoffs. And adding a goalie like Marc-Andre Fleury with that kind of experience and, that skill level, that would only help Washington in their endeavors in the playoffs. So, yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury potentially to go to the Capitals. Do you think there's any other place that Marc-Andre Fleury could land before the deadline?
There was a lot of rumors about Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, there was rumors about Edmonton, but honestly, I don't see any way that that would even happen. So, truthfully, other than Washington, the thing with Fleury is his cap hit. I believe he has a $7 million cap hit, so it's not the easiest thing ever to get him in, especially when a lot of teams in the league are very tight against the cap. So it's tough to say, to be honest.
Yeah, this whole COVID situation has made the salary cap for NHL teams definitely a lot difficult to manage around. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Fleury kind of moves around in the right before the deadline here. He's definitely one of those goalies that if you can get him for the right price, he's going to add so much help to your team. So we'll keep tabs on that as well. In Pittsburgh Penguin news, they just re-signed Jeff Carter to a 2-year deal. Jeff Carter has been very good in Pittsburgh lately. He's been a very good goal scorer, and he's been probably very good in that locker room for them. What do you think of that signing, Brody?
I think it's a great signing, honestly. When you get him for just over $3 million a season for the next 2 years, and he's won Stanley Cups, he's a great veteran presence. He can put the puck in the net, and when you're a Penguins team looking to go after a cup, you're going to want to have Jeff Carter around. So I think that's a great signing for them.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like Jeff Carter's chemistry over there in Pittsburgh has definitely been a lot better than when he was in the later half of his Kings career. If you look at right after he got traded to Pittsburgh last year, before he got traded with the Kings, he had 8 goals in 40 games. You trade him over to Pittsburgh, and only in 14 games, he had 9 goals. So this year, he's got 26 points in 40 games, only a -3, so really not that much of a liability there in the defensive zone. But like you said, great veteran presence. He's won Stanley Cups, and so is Pittsburgh. So, you never really can count out Pittsburgh. If they make the playoffs, you always got to watch for them because they somehow find a way to win there. So, yeah, I think that's also a great contract as well for Jeff Carter. He's 37 years old. Sign him only for a couple years, but have him on the team. Even, if his scoring, goes down a little bit, he's still that great veteran presence for the young guys coming up on their team. So, yeah, great signing for the Pittsburgh Penguins there. Let's move back to the Western Conference here real quick, Brody. An interesting stat that I came across. The Calgary Flames are the first team since the 2003-2004 New Jersey Devils to have 9 shutouts through their first 40 games of the season. So, Calgary, yeah, they've been crazy. They've had some weird stats this year, Brody. I know that game against Columbus, they set a franchise record for most shots in a game. That was the highest amount of shots in a game since I think it was like the 1970s or something like that. But Jacob Markstrom has been holding it down for the Flames, and that's one thing the Flames have been needing for years. They've just been needing that number 1 goalie. Ever since Kiprusoff retired, it's been a struggle bringing in goalies like Kari Ramo, Jonas Hiller. Who else we got? I could go on for days with this. David Rittich. They brought in these goalies. Eddie Lack as well as another one of them. The Flames have been going through quite a bit of goalies since Kiprusoff's gone, but signing Markstrom and bringing him onto the team has definitely been a benefit. And as you guys can tell there, obviously with his 7 shutouts, for Markstrom, 2 for Vladar through 40 games, that's it's pretty good. So that's an interesting stat that I wanted to talk about. Staying with Calgary though, Brody, I wanted to talk about another player on Calgary that has been absolutely insane for them this year. And this might be a little biased because, yes, I'm a Flames fan, but Johnny Guccio, Brody, isn't he having a season?
Yeah, he's been solid. I mean, first of all, I want to go back to your point on Calgary's 9 shutouts in 40 games. Another stat I found interesting about the Calgary Columbus game is, yeah, Calgary had 60 shots, but like Elvis Merzlikins gave up 6 goals and he still had a 900 save percentage.
Hmm.
Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, going on your point about Johnny Gaudreau, yeah, he's been fantastic for Calgary this year, and he's been a real big part to why they're having their success there. And it wouldn't surprise me if he got some nominations for the Hart Trophy, though, the way he's been playing this year.
Yeah. It's he's been absolutely outstanding, and that first line for the Flames as well has been incredible with Kachuk and Lindholm. Just before we talk more about Guccio, I want to add it to that that crazy goalie save percentage. Is it Vamelka? I think his name's Vamelka, right? The goalie for the Coyotes.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, Vamelka. Yeah, last night the Flames played the Coyotes. They won 4-2. Vamelka let in 4 goals against the Flames, and he had a 920 save percentage. He let in 4 goals on 50 shots. So that was crazy to me as well, as seeing these goalies still perform even though the Flames are peppering them with shots. But let's go back to Johnny Gaudreau as well. Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau this season right now, before that Arizona game, 52 points in 40 games played. 17 of those are goals, plus 29 in only 10 penalty minutes. Before that Arizona game, he had 21 points in his last 11 games, which is crazy. But yeah, that Gaudreau, Kachuk, and Lindholm line has been outstanding. They're all above plus 20. They've all been scoring, and me personally, I think Matty Kachuk was a little bit of a snub on the All-Star roster as well. But it's all good. The Flames fans know, his skill, and that line truly has been incredible for the Flames this year. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Brody, before we wrap this up?
I would like to talk about one more thing on the LA Kings front. Quentin Byfield has his first NHL goal.
Yeah, that's awesome to see. Quentin Byfield, the second overall pick, of the Los Angeles Kings, scoring his first goal. That Los Angeles Kings young core is scary. They have some crazy players coming up. Alex Turcotte, Quentin Byfield, Sean Durzi, Kaliev, players like that. Like, LA is going to be another force to reckon with in the future years here. But yeah, congrats to Quentin Byfield on his first NHL goal. You'll love to see that. Anything else you'd like to add, Brody?
I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week. I don't really have any other topics to talk about, to be honest with you.
And just so you guys know, we do upload our episodes every Sunday at 12 o'clock Mountain Time, whether it be on Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or on YouTube. You guys can check it out on all those streaming sites. We appreciate every single one of you for listening to episode number 2 of the Cherry Pickers podcast, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys back around in episode 3. Take care, and have a good one.